The Senate will come to order. I ask everyone present to please rise and recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. In the absence of clergy, let us bow our heads in a moment of silent reflection or prayer in the memory of Timothy Klein and my constituent Carlos Richards, who passed away this weekend after a tragic fire in Canarsie, and in honor of the 8 members of FDNY who were injured while fighting that fire. Reading of the journal.
In Senate, Monday, April 25th, 2022, the Senate met pursuant to adjournment. The Journal of Sunday, April 24th, 2022 was read and approved. On motion, the Senate adjourned.
Without objection, the journal stands approved as read. Presentations of petitions, messages from the Assembly. Secretary will read.
Senator Harkin moves to discharge from the Committee on Labor Assembly Bill number 7595, substituted for the identical Senate Bill 6805, third reading calendar 396.
So ordered. Messages from the Governor. Reports of standing committees. Reports of select committees. Communications and reports from state officers. Motions and resolutions. Senator Kennedy.
Good afternoon, Madam President. First of all, let me start by acknowledging the fact that Senator Gianaris is not able to be with us here today as he is taking care of himself at home following CDC guidelines after he came down with COVID. I spoke to him earlier today. He's doing very well, and our thoughts are with him. To my colleagues on my side of the aisle, I don't want you to be too disappointed because this is very temporary, and Senator Gianaris will be back with us before you know it. And to my colleagues on the other side of the aisle, I don't want you to get too excited because this is very temporary, and Senator Gianaris will be back with us before you know it. So with that, Madam President, we'll get down to business. The amendments are being offered to the following third reading calendar bills. First bill by Senator Biaggi, calendar number 306. Also, Senator Rivera, calendar number 519.
The amendments are received and the bill will retain its place on the third reading calendar. Senator Kennedy.
Thank you, Madam President. I wish to call up from Senator Skoufis, bill print number 1829A, recalled from the Assembly, which is now at the desk.
Secretary will read.
Calendar number 119, Senate Print 1829A by Senator Skoufis, enactment of the Public Authorities Law.
Madam President, and I wish to move to reconsider the vote by which this bill was passed.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Gianaris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White, I 61.
The bill is restored to its place on the third reading calendar.
Thank you, Madam President. I wish to call up my bill, print number I now offer the following amendments to Senator Skoufis' bill.
The amendments are received and the bill will retain its place on the third reading calendar.
Thank you, Madam President. I now wish to call up my bill, print number 5261A, recalled from the Assembly, which is now at the desk.
Secretary will read.
Calendar number 331, Senate Print 5261A by Senator Kennedy, enactment of the Business Corporation Law.
I now wish to reconsider the vote by which this bill was passed.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Gianaris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White, ayes 61.
The bill is restored to its place in the third reading calendar.
Madam President, I now offer the following amendments.
Amendments are received and the bill will retain its place in the third reading calendar.
Madam President, please call on Senator Lanza.
Senator Lanza.
Madam President, I'm happy this is a temporary situation. I miss Senator Gianaris already. Madam President, on motion by Senator Palumbo, On page number 36, I offer the following amendments to calendar 737, Senate print number 7687, and ask that said bill retain its place on third reading calendar.
The amendments are received and the bill will retain its place in the third reading calendar. Senator Kennedy.
Madam President, I move to adopt the resolution calendar with the exception of Resolution 2363.
Where's my resolution from? The question is on adopting the resolution calendar with the exception of Resolution 2363. All in favor of adopting the resolution calendar signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. The resolution calendar is adopted. Senator Kennedy.
Yes, please take up previously adopted Resolution 1812 by Senator Kaplan. Read the resolution in title only and recognize Senator Kaplan on the resolution.
Secretary will read.
Senate Resolution 1812 by Senator Kaplan, memorializing Governor Kathy Hochul to proclaim April 24th through 30th, 2022 as Crime Victims Rights Week in the state of New York.
Senator Kaplan on the resolution.
Thank you, Madam President. Each year, 22 million Americans will be directly impacted by a crime. And all too often, that experience leaves a life-changing impact on the physical, emotional, and financial well-being of the survivors, their family, their friends, and their neighbors. National Crime Victims' Rights Week has been observed every April since 1981 as a way to bring awareness to the struggles of the crime victims, survivors, and their families, with the goal of removing barriers to justice for all victims. The theme of this year's observation is rights, access, and equity for all victims, underscoring the importance of helping crime survivors find their justice by enforcing victims' rights, expanding access to services, and ensuring equity and inclusion for all. At a time when we are seeing crime rates on rise around the country and in our own communities, we can do more to help, and we must do more to help. Not only by raising awareness on Crime Victims' Rights Week, but by passing a meaningful legislation that uplifts survivors and helps victims and their families to put their lives back together and heal the wounds that doctors cannot. It is why I'm proud to be the sponsor not only of this resolution, but also of legislation that would create a network of crime victims and trauma survivor recovery centers across the state to break the cycle of violence, provide equitable and inclusive community-based services, and help victims and survivors to get true access to justice. We owe it to every New Yorker to be there for them in their hour of need. And it's on all of us to ensure that these services exist and are accessible to all, no matter where they live or their personal circumstances. Because after all, we're all New Yorkers, and we look out for one another, no matter what. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Mannion on the resolution.
Thank you, Madam President. I thank Senator Kaplan for bringing this resolution to the floor. Many of us in the room today have been ourselves victims of crime, and certainly we've been in this chamber and seen family members who had lost loved ones as a result of criminal activity. We have friends that have been victims of crime and family members as well. The world has never been without criminal activity, but that world came into my family about 40 years ago as my first cousin, Jimmy Dorsey, Jim, was murdered in his own home, as his two sons, my second cousins, Ryan and Matthew, witnessed that crime and were fired at themselves as they fled the area. They have lived a life of pain, but have overcome that pain. And it is victims of crime like my cousin and my second cousins that are often forgotten. But that pain does not go away. And that's why resolutions like this and important legislation has to be there to support individuals that are victims of criminal activity. Matt and Ryan got through it. I'm proud to go to their weddings, be there with their children, and see the joy that they can live with somehow after going through such a traumatic event at such a young age. Everyone is not that lucky, and we need to be there to support them. I proudly support this resolution. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator. The resolution was previously adopted on February 15th. Senator Palumbo on the resolution. 1 second, Senator Palumbo. I would just like to remind my colleagues, because your conversation is being heard up here, if you can please respect our colleagues while they're speaking. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam
Senator
President.
Palumbo on the resolution.
Thank you, Madam President. And I rise today as well to support this resolution, and I commend the sponsor for bringing it to the floor, and I do associate myself with the comments made by the two previous speakers. Having been in the business, so to speak, of law enforcement for many years and sitting with families who have lost a loved one, been victims themselves, and as Senator Kaplan mentioned, there are 22 million crime victims each year. But quite frankly, there are a lot more than that that result from a crime and a victim. You have family members, you have parents, children, friends, those that are around the victim are dealing with or have to deal with the emotional scars for many, many years to follow, some of them for the rest of their lives, particularly if it's a violent crime. And when you hear about victimless crimes, that's not really the case either, because we have, for example, drug crimes, and they were so-called victimless crimes. And obviously, the influx of drugs has created a scourge in our society of overdose victims and people who are abusing substances. So it goes even further than that, and quite frankly, proclaiming Crime Victims' Rights Week in the state of New York in conjunction with the National Crime Victims' Rights Week couldn't have come at a more timely point in society, because we have a plague of crime, and we can debate as to the reasons for that, and that's not for here at this point, at this time. But the plague of crime is national, it's international. Crime is up, it is spiking. Therefore, victims are more prevalent. So we need to ensure when we act in this body that we do so remembering and always keeping in mind victims' rights. And we need to act in a fashion that is always to protect the rights of those individuals who've done nothing wrong, other than have their lives changed because someone perpetrated a crime on them. I appreciate the opportunity to say a few words, Madam President, and I vote aye. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. The resolution was there any other? Senator Jackson on the resolution.
Thank you, Madam President. First, let me thank my colleague, Anna Kaplan, for bringing forward this resolution. And in fact, I don't have a copy in front of me, but the message is loud and clear. This is about a resolution regarding crime victims and their rights, understanding that many of us in this room, our colleagues, relatives, have been victims of crime. And I can say this to you, that I remember loud and clear when my mother got a call in 1975 that my younger brother, was in critical condition, was not expected to live. And that is so clear in my mind today as a result of the first member of my family to die as a result of a crime. And never we have found out who was his murderer, but that lives with me and my family even as of today. And I was at a press conference earlier, which happened to do with qualified immunity. And I know that many people have different opinions on this particular matter. But some of these people that were at the press conference are relatives of victims that have been brutalized or either murdered, and they are seeking justice also as crime victim family members, their constitutional rights. And so I'd say to everyone that, as my colleagues indicated, this is a resolution about justice for all victims, regardless of the circumstances. And everyone has a right to seek their due equity and inclusiveness for getting their rights done. And so protecting the rights of victims is extremely important. And from a government point of view, we must make sure that the agencies are available to help those victims do the processing that is absolutely necessary to seek justice. And with that, Madam President, and to my colleagues, I vote aye on the resolution.
Thank you, Senator. Let me try this again. The resolution was previously adopted on February 15th. Senator Kennedy.
Thank you. Please take up previously adopted Resolution 1973 by myself. Read the resolution in title only and recognize me on that resolution.
The Secretary will read.
Senate Resolution 1973 by Senator Kennedy, commemorating the 200th anniversary of Frederick Law Olmsted's birthday on Tuesday, April 26, 2022.
Senator Kennedy on the resolution.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise to honor the 200th anniversary of Frederick Law Olmsted's birthday today. This much-deserved recognition coincides with National Olmsted 200, marking this extraordinary moment. Frederick Law Olmsted was many things during his lifetime: an author, a journalist, a city planner, a public official. The list goes on and on. But above all, he'll forever be remembered as a visionary and one of the first landscape architects of the 19th century here in the United States. Olmsted's designs have influenced the development of parks, communities, recreational landscapes, college campuses. The examples are endless. All you have to do is look around here in New York to see the spirit of his art realized. After designing New York's Central Park and Brooklyn's Prospect Park, Olmsted made his way to Buffalo, where he ended up designing 6 major parks, 7 parkways, and 8 landscaped circles throughout the city. It was here that the country's first urban park system was born, as Olmsted deemed it a city within a park. For the next 30 years, Olmsted produced designs for parks and institutions across the country, leaving his mark on almost every major city in the United States, from Niagara Falls to North Carolina to Yosemite National Park to Washington, D.C., and so many places in between. Olmsted was dedicated to creating parks for all people. And while thousands of miles apart, all of these concepts had a common theme: a true believer that landscapes should promote a sense of community. Olmsted's visions were centered around green space and encouraged vibrant, livable cities. He wanted people to connect, to celebrate our togetherness. And that's exactly what we continue to do today in Buffalo and beyond. Frederick Law Olmsted's intention to create communities centered around walkability and connectivity, something we can all carry with us as we plan for our future here in the great state of New York. For these reasons and so many others, I'm proud to commemorate the 200th anniversary of the birthday of Frederick Law Olmsted here in New York and celebrate this trailblazer's contributions to our state and to our country. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator. The resolution was previously adopted on March 22nd. Senator Kennedy.
Thank you, Madam President. Please take up previously adopted Resolution 2190 by Senator Clear. Read that resolution in title only and recognize Senator Clear on the resolution.
Secretary will read.
Senate Resolution 2190 by Senator Claire, memorializing Governor Kathy Hochul to proclaim April 26, 2022 as Domestic Violence Awareness and Prevention Day in the state of New York.
Senator Claire.
Thank you, Madam President. As Chair of the New York State Senate Standing Committee on Women's Issues, I'm not only honored by the opportunity to sponsor this resolution, but more importantly, to stand up and amplify the voices of generations of women who had to fight with such tenacity and moral clarity for the right to be treated with simple human dignity. I am proud that today, under the leadership of Leader Stuart Cousins, we have passed a number of important bills to make sure that survivors of domestic violence have important legal, judicial, health, housing, financial, and consumer protection rights. Like so many other issues, domestic violence has a disproportionate impact on communities of color, and in particular, Black women, over 40% of whom will experience a domestic violence episode in their lifetime. At a rate of 2.5 to 3 times more than others, this is an alarming and painful fact. Yet I know that it drives all of us here today to redouble and enhance our efforts. I spoke at the annual New York State Coalition Against Domestic Violence Legislative Day of Action event this morning, and I was so proud to be joined there by our leader and so many other extraordinary leaders. We know that the movement has been making a difference for over 40 years now, and I look forward to being on the vanguard of important changes and modernizations to make sure that we are proactively meeting the needs of survivors with our dynamic network of over 100 service providers and 200 facilities. Like a group called WARM, We All Really Matter, which operates in my district. So much more is needed: education, awareness, resources, programs, and more. And I look forward to being back here later this session and in coming years to vote on legislation and funding for these additional supports as well. And I vote aye.
Thank you, Senator. The resolution was previously adopted on April 5th. Senator Kennedy.
Thank you. Please take up Resolution 2363 by Senator Gounardes. Read that resolution in title only and recognize Senator Gounardes on the resolution.
The Secretary will read.
Senate Resolution 2363 by Senator Gounardes, memorializing Governor Kathy Hochul to recognize April 20th, 2022 in honor of the 245th anniversary of the adoption of the first New York State Constitution.
Senator Gounardes.
Thank you, Madam President. Today, I want to take just a few minutes to commemorate April 20th, a day that may have passed without much fanfare, as the 245th anniversary of New York becoming a state. On April 20th, 1777, New York ratified and adopted our first state constitution in the city of Kingston. The Constitution, the first chartering document of the newly declared independent New York, was drafted primarily by prominent founding fathers John Jay and Gouverneur Morris, both of whom would go on to sign the U.S. Constitution in 1787, and Robert Livingston, who represented New York at the Second Continental Congress, was a member of the committee that drafted the Declaration of Independence and administered the first oath of office to George Washington in 1789. The process of drafting the Constitution began almost immediately after the Declaration of Independence was announced in July of '76. The New York Provincial Congress, a committee of colonists who favored independence that began organizing itself in 1775 to support the war effort, met in the city of White Plains on July 10, 1776, to begin the work of creating a new government now that the colony had declared itself free and independent. The work of the Provincial Congress was delayed and disrupted by the imminent invasion of New York City by British forces. The Congress had to adjourn repeatedly and seek out safer locations away from the British Army, a situation that became more desperate with the Continental Army's defeats across Long Island and New York City, and their ultimate retreat across the river to New Jersey. As winter settled in on the war effort and the British made their camp in New York City, the Provincial Congress fled to upstate Kingston to continue their efforts at mobilizing for the war effort and drafting the Constitution. Finally, on April 20th, 1777, with only one dissenting vote, the Provincial Congress of New York, renaming itself the Convention of Representatives of the State of New York, adopted and ratified the new Constitution. Remarkably, the new Constitution was not submitted to the general public for ratification or support because the ongoing war made that nearly impossible. Our first Constitution had 42 sections, and it clocked in at just under 7,000 words. It included in its preamble the entire text of the Declaration of Independence. It did not have a formal Bill of Rights, but it did include a right to trial by jury, a right to counsel in felony cases, and a right of due process, as well as prohibitions against bills of attainder and protections of religious freedom and liberty of conscience. The Constitution made no mention of slavery, nor did it even include a process for future amendments, but it was the first state constitution, and therefore the first constitution in the nation's history, to require that legislative representation be based on equal population, and that every 7 years the apportionment of legislative seats be reallocated based on changes in the population. Our first Constitution was in many ways a precursor to the U.S. Constitution that would be adopted a decade later. For example, looking at the records we have of the deliberations, the State Senate, this very chamber, was designed to be a filter for public opinion, much like the U.S. Senate was designed to be the so-called saucer that cools the tea that we learn about so much in our civics and social studies classes. Over the years, our state and the structures of our government, the rights bestowed to our people, and the obligations of our people vis-a-vis that government have changed greatly. In fact, the state of New York has ratified 4 different constitutions: 1777, 1821, 1846, and 1894. And in between all those years, our Constitution has been amended hundreds and hundreds of times. The history of our state's constitutional evolution is rich and fascinating, and I could very easily stand here for days talking about it, but don't worry, I won't. I see Rachel shaking her head. But if you'll just indulge me for a few minutes, we don't get to talk about our state constitution all that much. I want to share some highlights and interesting points of information about our state constitution and how it's evolved over time. In 1821, our Constitution adopted a formal Bill of Rights, largely modeled on the Federal Bill of Rights. It included provisions concerning habeas corpus, double jeopardy, self-incrimination, eminent domain, and free speech. The 1821 Constitution authorized the legislature to deny suffrage to anyone convicted of a felony, and also required that the sale of any state lands be used exclusively for the benefit of the state's common schools. This was the first time that public schools were mentioned in the Constitution. In 1846, a convention was held to make additional changes to our state constitution. That convention proposed an amendment guaranteeing equal suffrage for African Americans, but with the caveat that the amendment would only take effect after a public referendum. That public referendum failed by a vote of 223,000 to 85,000. Delegates to the 1846 convention proposed an amendment guaranteeing free public education, but that proposal failed to secure enough votes from the convention's delegates. The 1846 convention prohibited excessive bail, cruel and unusual punishment, and the unreasonable detention of witnesses. It also included a provision requiring a public referendum every 20 years on whether a new constitutional convention should be convened, a provision that still exists in our Constitution today. Of great interest, perhaps, to members of this body, the 1846 convention reduced the length of state Senate terms from 3 years to 2 years, and it's remained the same ever since. That same Constitution also laid the foundation of our judiciary, creating the trial-level Supreme Court and the Court of Appeals. The next Constitutional Convention was convened in 1867, but in 1858, the legislature approved a resolution calling for an immediate disbandment of state government and transferring all governing authority to the New York Central Railroad. The public, in their infinite wisdom, narrowly voted down that proposed constitutional amendment by just 6,000 votes. The convention in 1867 rejected a call for women's suffrage, saying that the public sentiment does not demand and would not sustain an innovation so revolutionary and sweeping. I know many of our colleagues in here would firmly disagree with that sentiment from 1867. The convention also rejected a literacy requirement for voting on the grounds that men's relative capacity is not absolutely measured by their literary achievements. A major theme of the 1867 Constitutional Convention was dealing with the balance between state government and local government. After several decades of state domination over local affairs, including the legislative disbandment of the Police Department of New York City and the creation of a new Metropolitan Police Department with the commissioner appointed directly by the governor, the 1867 Constitutional Convention proposed a series of structural changes designed to allow local governments to exercise what we now come to know as home rule. The 1867 Convention proposed additions to the State Bill of Rights, including a right against unreasonable search and seizure, the right to convict witnesses in criminal cases, the right to peaceful assembly, and the right to petition the government for a redress of grievances. The public overwhelmingly voted against all of the proposals that were made during the 1867 Convention, though over time, many of those amendments were ultimately adopted. We can fast forward 30 years to 1894. The Constitutional Convention that met proposed 400 different amendments to the Constitution and ultimately adopted just 33 of them. Proposals to grant women suffrage, regulate antitrust, guarantee pensions for the elderly, guarantee the right to join a union, and a ban on child labor all failed to even advance out of committee for the convention's full consideration. That convention did propose, however, and approved an amendment requiring that all bills introduced in the legislature had to sit for 3 days on legislators' desks before they could be voted on. In 1894, the convention and the Constitution was amended to guarantee for the first time a fully public school system, elevating education to the status of a core constitutional value, though the amendment does not guarantee a statutory or constitutionally minimal level of education. In 1894, we also saw the creation of the landmark Forever Wild provision, which obligated the state to keep the Adirondack and Catskill forest preserves free from development. Also of interest and somewhat timely in the news, the 1894 Constitution proposed creating the office of temporary president of the Senate, which, as we all know, is occupied by our majority leader. There is so much more rich history that I can go on and on and on to talk about. I could, but I can sense from some of my colleagues that perhaps we need more than one holiday to celebrate the rich history of our state's Constitution. I'm glad to say that today, in the Judiciary Committee, we were able to pass my bill to designate April 20th as officially as New York Constitution Day, a day for us to just take a pause and reflect upon the rich history that our Constitution provides to us. And now, I know many might be asking, and I can see some people here might be asking, why does this all matter, and why should we care? And I'll tell you why. Because our civic culture places such a premium on our federal Constitution. We learn about it all throughout our school years, beginning in elementary school. We talk about the U.S. Constitution as if it were some sort of religious document that holds the eternal truths that support our personal political views, while simultaneously disproving the views of those we disagree with. We spend so much time and energy and effort debating the constitutional powers of the federal government. And yet, for all of its sacred importance and preeminence in our understanding of our civic identity, we tend to overlook just how important state governments really are. States, the laboratories of democracy, as Justice Brandeis remind us, have a more fundamental impact on our day-to-day lives as citizens than the federal government ever has and perhaps ever will. And in a world that depends on an engaged and educated citizenry to fulfill the promise of self-government, what could be more important than starting with the very foundational charter that outlines the rights, privileges, powers, and responsibilities of a government that directly affects our lives each and every day? We should care about our state constitution because it is the blueprint for a state government that is meant to serve us. And so today, even though it's April 26th, I want to wish you all a happy April 20th, 420, New York Constitution Day. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. The question is on the resolution. All in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The resolution is adopted. Senator Kennedy.
Madam President, thank you very much. And I just want to take a point of personal privilege and thank Senator Gounardes for that very extraordinary history lesson for all of us. There will be a pop quiz afterwards. And, Madam President, I just want to say how much I personally appreciate the time he took to do that resolution. That being said, at the request of the sponsors, the resolutions are all open for co-sponsorship.
The resolutions are open for co-sponsorship. Should you choose not to be a co-sponsor of the resolutions, please notify the desk. Senator Kennedy.
Yeah, a quick announcement. There will be an Energy Committee meeting that will proceed after session.
There will be an Energy Committee meeting immediately after session.
Madam President, please call on Senator Rivera for an introduction.
Senator Rivera.
Thank you, Madam President. And I just want to, for the record, Madam President, I want to apologize to Senator Kennedy. So many times I have kind of admonished you on your lengthy, elaborate. I apologize. I take it all back. And I want to pause for a second to see if Senator Gounardes was just taking a breath to go to the second. You're good? Okay, he's good. Madam
Senator
President,
Rivera
thank you so
for an
much.
introduction.
Yes, an introduction. So after that thing that just occurred, I am glad that we got that history lesson. I'm going to give you another history lesson, but unlike some, I will actually be brief. But in all seriousness, Madam President, I am incredibly lucky to represent the Bronx, and I'm incredibly lucky to represent an incredibly diverse group of folks in the Bronx. I am Puerto Rican by birth. I represent more Dominicans than any other state legislator in the country. I have folks from Albanian descent, African American descent, et cetera. And there's one community in particular that has been up here in Albany before, and I want to recognize them because they are here with us today, and that is the Garifuna community. Yes. We will have an opportunity to do that some more. Because, Madam President, as I'm sure that you know, the Garifuna community is an incredibly proud and interesting group of folks that were a product of an Afro-Indigenous mix. Folks of African descent brought here against their will who escaped after a ship ran aground in Central America and mixed with the indigenous population and created this amazing culture and amazing folks, and they've traveled all over the world, but one of the biggest populations outside of Central America, outside of Honduras and Belize, are right there in the Bronx. And I want to thank Senator Sepulveda, who unfortunately could not be here today, but he introduced a resolution to recognize April as Garifuna American Heritage Month. And so I wanted to take an opportunity to welcome these fine folks here, and I wanted to name them because some of them are friends I haven't seen in a while. We are very thankful to have as you know, the pandemic has meant that there's a lot of folks who haven't gotten the opportunity to come up in the last couple of years. But I am very glad to see some of my friends back here with us. With us, we have Carlos Arana Baltazar, and please stand as I recognize you, Karen Blanco, Yanira Arias, Felix Gamboa, Satuye Toussaint, Oscar Guevara, Turito Martinez. This guy right here, by the way, I could tell you stories of the dancing in parades and him trying to keep everybody in line, etc. I look forward again to those parades and you trying to keep me in line, which you will not be able to do. Claudia Bonilla, Alma Fuentes, Christy David, these amazing folks represent organizations in the Garifuna American community, the Asuncor, Hondurans Against AIDS, Casa Yurumain, Alianza Americas, Patronato de San Juan, Lumalali Limu, Hijos de Livingston, Garifuna Health Initiatives, Chief Joseph Chatouillier Performance Dance Group, Organización de San Antonio, Honduran Parade Committee, Patronato de La Playa, that's the one I love, and Central American Black Organization. Madam President, all of these organizations are an incredibly important part of New York State and certainly of the Bronx, and these folks have all been, are all an incredibly important part of what makes the Bronx great. I thank you for coming, and you picked the right date because now you know all that you will never know more
You now know more about the New York State Constitution than I do. Madam President, please offer them the benefits of the House. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Senator. To our guests, I welcome you on behalf of the Senate. We extend to you the privileges and courtesies of this House. Please rise and be recognized. Senator Kennedy.
President, please take up the reading of the calendar.
The Secretary will read.
Calendar number 230, Senate Print 404 by Senator Biaggi, an act to amend the criminal procedure law.
Read the last section.
Section 3, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 62.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 266, Senate Print 6142A by Senator Boyle, an act to amend Chapter 635 of the laws of 1987.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 62.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 333, Senate Print 1681 by Senator Bailey, an act to amend the public housing law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 62.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 366, Senate Print 1269 by Senator Brooks, an act to amend the penal law.
Read the last section.
Section 3, this act shall take effect on the 120th day, and shall become a law.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 366, those senators voted in the negative are Senators Akshar, Biaggi, Borrello, Brisport, Gallivan, Griffo, Helming, Jordan,
That's a crime.
Myrie, Oberacker, O'Mara, Ort, Ramos, Rath, Ritchie, Salazar, Steck, Tedisco, and White. Ayes 43, nays 19.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 367, Senate Print 1331 by Senator Kruger, an act to amend the penal law.
Read the last section.
Section 5, this act shall take effect on the 1st of November.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 62.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 376, Senate Print 7157A by Senator Parker, an act to amend the public service law and the general business law.
Read the last section.
Section 6, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 62.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 383, Senate Print 1745 by Senator Skoufis, an act to amend the alcoholic beverage control law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 62.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 369, Senate Print 2115 by Senator Bailey, an act to amend the penal law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 62.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 396, Assembly number 7595 by Assemblymember Otis, an act to amend the labor law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Yeah, I know. I was like, wait a minute, I missed the bill. Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 396, those senators voted in the negative are Senators Akshar, Borrello, Boyle, Gallivan, Griffo, Helming, Jordan, Lanza, Martucci, Matera, Oberacker, O'Mara, Ort, Palumbo, Rath, Ritchie, Sereno, Steck, Tedisco, and White. Ayes 42, nays 20.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 415, Senate Print 6549B by Senator Gallivan, enactment of the highway law.
Read the last section.
Section 3, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart-Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 415, voted in the negative, Senator Brisport, ayes 61, nays 1.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 466, Senate Print 4009A by Senator Breslin, enactment of the penal law.
Read the last section.
Section 3, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart-Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 62.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 470, Senate Print 6443A by Senator Mayer, enactment of the Criminal Procedure Law and the Family Court Act.
Read the last section.
Section 7, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart-Cousins.
Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 470, those senators voted in the negative are Senators Akshar, Borrello, Gallivan, Griffo, Helming, Jordan, Lanza, Oberacker, O'Mara, Ort, Rath, Ritchie, Steck, and Tedisco. Ayes 48, nays 14.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 510, Senate Print 5940 by Senator Parker, an act to require the Office for the Prevention of Domestic Violence to conduct a study on domestic violence in the transgender community.
Read the last section.
Section 3, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart-Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 62.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 581, Senate Print 66A by Senator Hoyerman, enactment of the Civil Practice Law and Rules.
Read the last section.
Section 5, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart-Cousins, White.
Senator Jackson to explain his vote.
I rise to support the bill, the Adult Survival Act, understanding that this bill, S66, which our conference has previously passed and continuously championed, this legislation, the Adult Survivors Act, gives the many survivors of sexual offenses and adults an opportunity to seek civil action against their abuser or their abuser's enablers in court of law. And we see child abuse survivors, young adults and older survivors, often either suppressing memories of their abuse or they are afraid to come forward right away. And by the time adult survivors get the help that they need and finally can take action against their abusers, it's too late to do anything about it legally. It is time to enact common sense legislation that will do away with the New York's vague statute of limitation, which denies many justice. Today, we are taking a massive step to fix that. And I want to thank my colleague, our colleague, Senator Holman, and all the co-sponsors for standing up for adult survivors and for continuously pushing for this legislation. And with our vote today, our state acknowledges that all survivors of sexual assault deserve justice. I proudly vote aye, Madam President.
Senator Jackson to be recorded in the affirmative. Senator Hoyerman to explain his vote.
Thank you, Madam President. This is such a great day for the survivors of sexual abuse. And of course, it's National Crime Victims' Rights Week and Sexual Assault Awareness Month. So this is a propitious time to pass the Adult Survivors Act here in the Senate. I want to thank my colleagues on both sides of the aisle, although I'm on your side of the aisle now. But thank you for your support last year. We passed this legislation unanimously. I hope we do it this year, too. And I also want to thank the survivors themselves who have really put themselves out there in a way that must be traumatic and triggering to relive their harrowing experiences to help educate us as to why we need to pass this important legislation in this chamber today. And of course, groups like Safe Horizon and Child USA, who organize those advocates and support them and bring them to Albany as they did today. I also want to say that today's vote is recognition of their suffering, their trauma, their heartache, but also how we need to work harder to support survivors of sexual abuse. We recognize in today's vote that adult survivors of sexual abuse had such a narrow window to file their claims against their abusers or the institutions that may have protected them. Thankfully, thanks to colleagues, we fixed that in the last couple of years. We went from 2 to 5 years to over 20 years prospectively. And of course, the Child Victims Act, which was a really important moment for our new majority when we allowed the adult survivors of child sexual abuse to open that window of opportunity and file claims, because the statute of limitations also had only been 1 to 5 years. And find me someone under 18 years old who can balance a checkbook or even know what a checkbook is these days, much less hire an attorney, confront an abuser, go to court. That's not likely to happen. And the Child Victims Act was recognition of that. So today, we follow suit with the Adult Survivors Act, recognizing that the statutes of limitation was far too short, that trauma takes time, sometimes years, sometimes decades to process, and that we have a solemn responsibility here to correct that with this legislation. I'm very thankful to our Majority Leader, Andrea Stewart-Cousins. I don't think it's a coincidence that a woman leads this chamber and that we have passed both the Child Victims Act, Madam President, and the Adult Survivors Act today. And we also send a message to all survivors that we hear you and that we are taking steps to ensure that your life is made better by our work here in Albany. I vote aye. Thank you, Madam President.
Senator Horlman to be recorded in the affirmative. Announce the results.
Ayes 62.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 625, Senate Print 192 by Senator Thomas, an act to amend the general business law.
Read the last section. The bill will be laid aside for the day.
Calendar number 654, Senate Print 3028 by Senator Parker, an act to amend the criminal procedure law and the executive law.
Laid aside.
Calendar number 658, Senate Print 7562 by Senator Salazar, an act to amend the executive law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect on the 30th day of the shall become a law.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Senator Mayer to explain her vote. No.
Thank you, Madam
May.
President.
Senator May to explain her vote.
Yeah. Thank you, Madam President. I never mind being mistaken for Shelley Mayer. It's okay. I rise in support of this bill and this whole package of bills that we're passing today in support of survivors of domestic violence. For most of us, it's hard to imagine what it would be like to feel unsafe within our homes and within our families. But for those who do, it is truly a nightmare. And I am proud that our body has repeatedly stepped forward to pass legislation like Senator Salazar's legislation to support victims and survivors of domestic violence. The pandemic made this problem far worse when people are shut in, when mental health and substance abuse issues are rising, when people are just frustrated and feeling unsure where their next paycheck is going to come from. All of these things contribute to domestic violence. And so this is a really important moment for us to be taking these steps. And so I proudly vote aye on this and the other bills in this package. Thank you.
Senator May to be recorded in the affirmative. Announce the results.
Ayes 62.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 685, Senate Print 8231A by Senator Salazar, an act to amend the executive law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 685, voted in the negative, Senator Borrello. Ayes 61, nays 1.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 691, Senate Print 7235 by Senator Kavanaugh, an act to amend the private housing finance law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 62.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 757, Senate Print 8417B by Senator Prasad, an act to amend the executive law.
Read the last section.
Section 12, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 62.
The bill is passed. Senator Kennedy, that completes the reading of today's calendar.
Please go to the reading of the controversial calendar.
The Secretary will ring the bell. The Secretary will read.
Calendar number 654, Senate Print 3020A by Senator Parker, an act to amend the criminal procedure law and the executive law.
Senator Lanza, why do you rise?
Madam President, I believe there's an amendment at the desk. I waive the reading of that amendment and ask that you recognize Senator Serino to be heard.
Thank you, Senator Lanza. Upon review of the amendment, in accordance with Rule 6, Section 4B, I rule it non-germane and out of order at this time.
Accordingly, Madam President, I appeal the ruling of the chair and ask that you recognize Senator Serino.
The appeal has been made and recognized, and Senator Serino may be heard.
Thank you, Madam President. The proposed amendment is germane. I rise to appeal the ruling of the chair. The proposed amendment is germane because the bill at hand is about protecting domestic violence victims, and the proposed amendment would do just that by repealing the bail reform laws that force judges to release dangerous domestic abusers. Because of bail reform, innocent domestic violence victims have never been more vulnerable than they are today. While our old laws allowed judges to set bail on any offenders charged with a family offense, these disastrous bail reform laws, even with your last-minute budget changes, actually handcuff our judges, preventing them from setting bail on many serious and inherently violent offenses, including assault in the 3rd degree, menacing in the 2nd degree, that's someone threatening another person with a weapon. Most stalking offenses, including stalking someone while displaying or possessing a gun or other weapon. Just picture yourself or a loved one in that position. False imprisonment in the 2nd degree, which is unlawfully restraining another person, an aggravated family offense. In addition, the law still does not allow for the consideration of the risk that an abuser might pose to the victim or the community as a whole. That simply defies logic. Too often, individuals charged with common domestic violence offenses are released on arraignment with nothing more than an order of protection in place to help the victim. Anyone who has experienced domestic violence will tell you that an order of protection is often no more powerful than a piece of paper that it's printed on. Because of bail reform, a victim's abuser is immediately released at arraignment, able to return to their victim, who is at constant risk of further harm, and threaten and intimidate their victim to prevent them from cooperating with law enforcement. It is because of these laws that our abusers today have even more of an opportunity to manipulate their vulnerable victims and use threats of violence to prevent the successful prosecution of their crimes. I know that we can all agree that we need strong laws to protect domestic violence victims and empower survivors. And I know my colleagues in this body, because of some of the bills that were passed today, believe that too. But however, the most important law that we can pass to do that is one that fully reverses these dangerous bail policies. Ensuring public safety and protecting our most vulnerable is a fundamental function of government, one that New York State is absolutely failing at right now. It is time that this body takes real action to restore common sense to our criminal justice system and go back to the drawing board on bail reform. For these reasons, Madam President, I strongly urge you to reconsider your ruling. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. I want to remind the House that the vote is on the procedures of the House and the ruling of the chair. Those in favor of overruling the chair signify by saying aye.
Request a show of hands.
Without objection, please waive the showing of the hands and record each member of the minority in the affirmative.
Without objection, so ordered. Announce the results.
Ayes 20.
The ruling of the chair stands, and the bill in chief is before the House. The Secretary will ring the bell. Secretary will read.
Section 6, action take effect on the 1st of January.
Is there anybody else? Call the roll.
Dabo, Gianaris, Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 62.
The bill is passed. Senator Kennedy, that completes the reading of the controversial calendar.
Is there any further business at the desk?
There is no further business at the desk.
I move to adjourn until Wednesday, April 27th at 11 a.m.
On motion, the Senate stands adjourned until Wednesday, April 27th at 11 a.m.